Hello students, Mr. Bastias here. Welcome to Unit 2, Week 3, Day 11. Today we will learn about telephones, how they looked a long time ago, and how they look now. We will grow in each other's ideas and add details to support our points of view. Make sure you have your meaning mapper, article a day, and your book of knowledge. Let's get started. Do you think it's a good idea to use a cell phone in the classroom? Why? Share your opinion with your friends. I think having a cell phone in the classroom is a bad idea because it can distract you from the lesson. So let's go over our focus word for the week. Our focus word this week is invent. How many syllables do you hear in the word invent? Invent has 2 syllables. Invent. Now I want you to say all the sounds you hear in the word invent. E, n, v, e, n, t. Invent. Now in your meaning mapper, let's see what the word invent means. When you invent something, you get an idea. And from this new idea, you make something that has never been made by anyone before. What words does this word make you think of or remind you of, and why? Now I want you to choose a word and add it to your meaning mapper. So in the word invent, it reminds me of the word idea, because in order to invent something, you have to have an idea. So we can add the word idea to our meaning mapper because it's related to the word invent. The title for our article a day is telephones, then and now. Does the phone in this picture look like the telephones we have now? How is it different? This telephone is very different from the telephones that we have now. Number one, it looks a lot bigger. It doesn't even have a screen. It seems to have some sort of cable here. It's very different from the telephone that I have now. Let's get started with our article a day. The telephone was invented many years ago. Long ago, all telephones were as big as a lunchbox. They had to stay on a table or wall. Telephones had only one purpose. They were used to speak to other people. So here are some of the telephones that we used to have before, and they are on the wall or on a table, and they were only used to speak to other people. They were kind of big as a lunchbox. Today, many people use cellular phones. Cellular phones can be smaller than your hand. They can be moved anywhere. So these look like the phones we have today, right? And we can move them anywhere, and they're very small. These phones can do many things. You can use them to send text messages. You can use them to take photographs. You can use them to play games. There is something else you can use cell phones to do. You can still use them to speak to other people. I really like using my cell phone to take photographs. I almost never use it to speak to other people. I prefer to send text messages. So, now I want you to write down or draw 2 or 3 things that you learned from the article and would like to remember. So, I'm going to help you out with this part as well. So, I want to go back to the article and see what are some of the things that I would like to remember. So I would like to remember that the telephone was invented many years ago. I think that's important. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that to my book of knowledge. So I learned that the telephone was invented many years ago. This is not a new invention. It was invented many, many years ago. Another thing that I would like to remember from this article is you can use cell phones to take photographs. So I'm going to write that in my meaning mapper. my book of knowledge. I also learned that you can use telephones to take photographs. And this makes me think of the time that this makes me think of my own cell phone and the cell phones, and the phones that my mom used to have when I was little. They were almost like those old phones, right? So I remember phones that looked like this. Very old. And lastly, I want us to take a look at our meaning mapper. So let's remember, our focus word is invent. When you invent something, you get an idea, and from that new idea, you make something that has never been made by anyone before. So we already have the word idea, but what other words can you add to your meaning mapper that are related to the word invent? I added the word recipe because sometimes you get an idea for a new recipe and you just have to invent it, and you make something that has never been made before or that you've never made before. It is completely new. So I wrote down the word recipe because sometimes you can invent a new recipe, and my mom has invented a couple of new recipes that are very good. The last thing I want us to do is I want us to take those words from our meaning mapper, invent, idea, and recipe, and I want them to add them to our word wall. So invent starts with an I, so I want to add it under I, and idea also under I, and then recipe under R. All right, students, that's it for me. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.